Here we go. Starting 1 minute early, because why not? Did it skip the whole... How funny. Well, that should make it work. When you load the game up in full screen, it shows... I wanted to show you guys this whole logo thing at the beginning, because it's kind of cool. But I switched it to split screen after that. Or not split screen, windowed mode. And that kind of borked it when I reopened it. See that little intro? That was kind of cool. All right, so let's jump right in. This is Dagon. It is an adaptation of an HP Lovecraft work. It's probably only about half an hour long, so it's a good little short game for nights when you just want to take it a little easy. Let's go for it. Let's see. Dagon is a faithful, interactive adaptation of HP Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, action sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to progressing through locations along with the plot.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Let's see. So there are interactive elements that give you little pieces of trivia. Also, hey Life Ferret. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the elder signs. So right click. Do they want me to look for needles and stuff over there? Huh. Oh, that. Okay. Let's see. Lovecraft's Letters. This isn't part of the DreadX games. No, this is a kind of like an indie work. I think this studio has only made this and then a couple little DLC packs for it. So, let's see. Lovecraft's Letters. As to letters, my case is peculiar. I write such things exactly as easily and as rapidly as I would utter the same topics in conversation. Indeed, epistolary expression is with me largely replacing conversation as my condition of nervous prostration becomes more and more acute. I cannot bear to talk much now, and am becoming as silent as the spectator himself. My loquacity extends itself on paper. See, I've read these words before, but I've never heard them read before. So, H.P. Lovecraft to Reinhard Kleiner, December 23rd, 1917, over 100 years ago. Throughout his life, Lovecraft penned around 100,000 letters to his friends and fans, out of which about 10% survive to this day, but his tendency to endless correspondence was a relatively late growth. In youth, I scarcely did any letter writing. Thanking anybody for a present was so much of an ordeal that I would rather have written a 250-line pastoral or a 20-page treatise on the rings of Saturn. He didn't like interacting with other people, I guess. Selected Letters, 1929 to 1931, H.P. Lovecraft. 12 years after the first one. So Lovecraft would often skip meals to afford postage. Collections of his correspondence have been published in various books, and selected letters can be found online. Some readers consider them his most important legacy. Weird. Let's see. Oh, we're going to read the trivia immediately. Should we? What do you guys think, Chad? Hey there, Artix XCC 1900? No, this isn't my debut. This is like my 28th or something stream of this month. I've been streaming for around 3 months now. This is my debut.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
We got a jumper.
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate. When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
Interesting. morphine entered into use in the 19th century and was routinely administered to treat severe pain during the American Civil War and World War I. It was also sold without restrictions until 1914. Kind of reminds me of a, a current painkiller epidemic we have. Morphine became more popular after the invention of the hypodermic syringe around 1854. Friedrich Serturner, who first isolated the substance, originally named it morphium after Morpheus, the Greek god associated with dreams. At the time when Dagon was published, morphine abuse, known as soldier's disease, already posed a big problem in the U.S.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider. The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation. So that our vessel was made a legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Odd, I thought that they said that the Huns were Central Asian nomads who established a dominion in Europe, well yeah, they're Huns, and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids, who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. During World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans, in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when the German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on the 27th of July 1900 before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited, just as 1,000 years ago the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look cross-eyed at a German. Jeez. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention of 1899. Is it Hague or Hague? Welcome, Lynx, bro.
So liberal, indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone, in a small boat, with water and provisions for a good length of time.
Nice. No hidden symbols? Okay.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Oh. Pretty moon.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land. But neither ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue.
Don't look at the sun. Oh well.
The change happened whilst I slept. Its details I shall never know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
What the fuck? Why does that look like space? Oh.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away. Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain. Perhaps I should not hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear. The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet.
Wow.
As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position. Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
Interesting theory. He just throws that right out there. Here we go.
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things. For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
I want to know what the hell that thing is.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time. That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue. On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal. All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
Kind of sad we can't explore this more depth. It's so pretty. Desolate.
That night I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Let's see. The Horrors of the Ocean. The creator of the Cthulhu mythos and the fictional underwater city of Relay was convinced that life could not exist at the bottom of the ocean because the water pressure would make it uninhabitable. Today we know that the darkest depths of the ocean are home to many peculiar organisms. The deepest dwelling fish we have discovered so far, the Mariana snailfish, can live about 8,000 meters, more than 26,000 feet, below the ocean's surface in never-ending darkness and at hellishly crushing pressures, hundreds of times stronger than those found at sea level. That's awesome. Upon glancing at the modern photos of deep-sea creatures such as the anglerfish, the fangtooth, or the viperfish, and their truly Lovecraftian characteristics, it's hard not to find some irony in this. Yeah.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night, but ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more. Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence.
Nice.
I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost, and of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent, whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual. Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath.
Sorry, I was going to say, I lived in Salt Lake City briefly, lots of mountains all around. I never got to go mountain climbing, though. I'm regretting that. Huh. Looks like an unnatural structure.
Gazing into the Stygian deeps, where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was captured by a vast and singular object on the opposite slope, which rose steeply about 100 yards ahead of me.
A monolith?
An object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon. That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself. But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express. For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith.
Is this where monoliths came from in, like, Western mythology? That can't be right. Surely it came from something else before. Like, there's the monolith in 2001: A Space Odyssey and other works of, other pieces of media like this. Let's continue.
Whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely.
Whoa.
The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm, and revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books, consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world, but whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Dagon contains many themes and storytelling methods that Lovecraft developed in his later works, such as telling the story through carvings at the Mountains of Madness and the Nameless City. I actually read at the Mountains of Madness. It was pretty good. Journals and characters' notes, The Shadow Out of Time, The Haunter Out of Dark, islands emerging from the ocean, from the Call of Cthulhu, or fictional beings and deities based on real events and mythologies, like Migo in The Whisperer in Darkness. It's also considered the origin of the popular Cthulhu mythos. Some of Lovecraft's other stories also conclude in a manner similar to Dagon, but let's skip the details in order not to spoil the ending.
Plainly visible across the intervening water, on account of their enormous size, were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré.
I'm actually not familiar with what a doré is. That's the first thing they've said that I don't know about.
I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men, though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint, grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall. Curiously enough, they seemed to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself.
Wow.
I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born.
Let's hope it's imagined. Yeah, Farragher says that the monoliths are way older than Lovecraft's writings, like BC times of history. And doré may mean a mixture of gold and silver. Thank you. I appreciate that. I kind of want to look into the history of monoliths, maybe do a video on that, because that is so interesting to me.
Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it. With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters. Horrendous-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds. mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the slope and cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
Oh.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods.
Raining IRL right now, too.
When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital.
Back when San Francisco was a nice place. Look at those ceiling tiles.
Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing.
Be conservative.
Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe.
Yeah, Vis, super late. Felt a little out of it, so. They even have wiring like that? Like electrical wiring? In the 1917 kind of range?
Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Most of these textures really hold up under scrutiny, but some of them not quite. So that paper says, "My life before you. I can remember a time when time itself, encased endless something, the second hand of a clock ticking in slow motion, something, our hand barely moving at all, a dull rhythm, monotony filling an empty void of nothingness, my life before you." I assume that's a poem. So, Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as an ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as a patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in an Assyrian poem and an underworld prison warder in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In HP Lovecraft's works, Dagon is a water deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. So the Esoteric Order of Dagon, okay. Oh, Dagon's mentioned in the Old Testament. That's cool, Veragor. Thanks. It's around 10:07 in this world right now. Huh. Ooh.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
He's got the Necronomicon and you call him conventional? Yeah. Let's see. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company Arkham House. Oh. Wow, I actually didn't know that. So Arkham House was the name of his publishing company? Wow, okay. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversy. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic. To the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. How about that? It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. Derleth did the right thing, okay? I like the Cthulhu mythos. Oh, poor Vis. Yeah, poor Vis can't hear us. If you want to talk shit about Vis, do it right now. She can't hear you. Nah. She's great. Huh. Lovecraft's attempts to find a job in 1925 were influenced by advice he received from friends. Among others, he started freelancing for a marketing magazine where he would write announcements and commercials. Feel free to judge his copywriting skills for yourself. From an ad for Curtis Woodwork. Curtis Woodwork embraces both the usual structural units and the cleverest contrivances of built-in or permanent furniture, such as bookcases, dressers, buffets, and cupboards. Each model is conceived and created with the purest art, ripest scholarship, and mellowest of craftsmanship. I can't even speak. Mellowest craftsmanship with energetic enterprise. God, seriously, his old way of speaking. Oh, so hard. Okay. And mellowest craftsmanship which energetic enterprise can command, and made to conform rigidly to the architecture of each particular type of home. The cost, considering the quality, is amazingly low, and a trademark on the individual pieces prevents any substitution by careless contractors. Jeez. The source of that is Lovecraft Studies, Volume 7, Number 1, HP Lovecraft, S.T. Joshi. Joshi, is he Indian? I knew some Joshis. Oh. Still about 10:07, 10:08 now. I'm looking at. Oh. See, the scientist. These days, the word scientist is a widely accepted term, but at the time Dagon was published, it was subject to a wide debate. After the author used it in the story, critics pointed out that the man of science was a more appropriate term to employ. I don't know, scientist is nice. He admitted, in defense of Dagon, that if Dagon were to be reprinted, he would indeed use the phrase they suggested. Scientist was coined as an analog to artist, to be used when referring to those studying different branches of science. Yet, in the 19th and early 20th century, scientific researchers in Great Britain and the U.S. were of the opinion that man of science, resembling the term man of letters, was the only proper choice. Among other things, it was gender-specific, indicating that science was an endeavor to be pursued by only one sex. Based. The term scientist became more accepted only after World War II, and man of science started fading into obscurity as an old-fashioned synonym. Yeah. And I think Batman Arkham Asylum, they must have gotten the name from Lovecraft story. Yes, that is right, Farragore. They absolutely got it from Lovecraft stories. I can't remember which comic they first used it in, but, yeah.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
The thing?
I tried morphine, but the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave. So now I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men.
Lovecraft on tobacco and alcohol. Lovecraft hated tobacco. Even though he used to smoke when he was 12, in order to look and feel like an adult, In his correspondence with friend Reinhard Kleiner, he claimed that he quit as soon as he started wearing long pants. Oh my god. He also had a very strong opinion about alcohol, as evidenced by his letter to Zelia Brown, dated the 13th of February 1928. As for the matter of drinking, I have never tasted intoxicating liquor and never intend to, having a strong aesthetic disgust at anything which blunt or coarsens the delicate natural equipoise of the evolved human intellect and imagination. Drinking excited my personal repugnance, hence I don't drink. Let the herd do what they will. I am rather in favor of prohibition, the prohibition of any one antisocial force as well as any other. Any other, okay. The source of that is The Spirit of Revision, Lovecraft's letters to Zelia Brown Reed Bishop, HP Lovecraft, Sean Branney, and Andrew Lemon St. That's funny. You know, like Stephen King, his best writing was often from when he was doing drugs and drinking alcohol excessively. A lot of people think that some of his worst works were from when he started cutting that shit out. And that's not just the case with Stephen King. You hear that about a lot of horror writers, science fiction writers. And I'm going to be honest, when I take CBD gummies, I have some really cool creative thoughts. My best creative period was when I was in my early 20s, though, maybe somewhere between 19 and 23. Working a full-time job and having so many responsibilities dulled that more than alcohol or tobacco would have. Tobacco's a stimulant, though.
Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm, a mere freak of fever, as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man-of-war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Whoa. There should be a Godzilla vs. Cthulhu movie. Forget Kong. I want to see Godzilla punch the shit out of Dagon, or whatever. Thalassophobia? Let's see, tobacco. Tobacco? Why tobacco links, bro? It's a stimulant. Some of the best creative ideas I've ever had in my life were when I was sleep deprived and using tobacco and energy drinks, mainly cigars. The stimulants and the that loopy feeling you get from when you don't have anywhere near enough sleep, it really helps out. I'm not necessarily suggesting you smoke, but I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. Are they still moving? Oh, I see. Fear of the deep sea.
The end is near.
There's a really nicely modeled chair, gee.
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Put on a bed sheet. Oh, that's a door? Oh, he blocked off the door. That's why I thought it was like a...
It shall not find me.
This... This is like everyone watching whatever bad things he said about me. None of it is true, and he's only saying it because he knows I can't hear right now because my headphones stopped working. Yeah, I'm saying all of the bad things. Ooh, she sure is, you know, like bad or whatever. Yeah. Oh yeah, cigarettes are gross. I agree, Links bro. Cigarettes are bad, but it's not the tobacco that's the problem. It's all the stimulants, or not the stimulant. I was focused on the door. My words came out wrong. It's all the additives. There's so many additives. They're cancer sticks. I just call cigarettes cancer sticks most of the time. It found you, bro. Friend.
God, that hand. The window. The window.
Oh no. Don't do it. Don't do it. Aww. Okay. As we hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in our little pool of cosmic horror. We would appreciate it if you took a moment to rate, dig, and check out our other games and DLCs. What other games do you have? I think it's just DLCs. The developer is Bit Golem, and they have 2 little DLC packs. Let's see. Oh, digging in numbers. So, wow. Almost 1.5 million walkthroughs watched on YouTube. 1 million units. So, about 1 million people have actually played this. Wow. It took them 6.5 months to develop the game, the DLC packs, the VR, the GOG port, the updates, and $14,000 donated to Ukraine Humble Bundle thing. Let's see. Yeah. In the top 350 all-time best-rated games on Steam. Gee. Yeah, this game was quite the success for a free title. That was pretty cool. I'm kind of sad that we don't get games like this all the time. We just got that shitty Call of Cthulhu game from BioWare? Blizzard? No. What is that studio? They did... So it's published by the guys who did Elder Scrolls. Bethesda, there we go. So there was that Bethesda Call of Cthulhu game. Faragor is like, now I feel like watching Hayore Nyaruko-san. Yeah, a Lovecraft Moe anime, man. You can't go wrong with Moe. And I haven't actually seen that one. I've just seen clips. But, yeah. There's also that Glass Bottle DLC, but, kind of aiming for a short stream tonight. So, hey. I like that. If you guys liked it, throw me a like, all that jazz. Did I save? There was another DLC thing. Should I get it? It's kind of late. Do you guys want to see the DLC pack, the Little Glass Bottle DLC? I don't own it, but I could buy it like right now. Apparently it's another like, 20 to 40 minutes or something. I'm gonna get it. Yeah, Dagon's cool. Let's do the other thing. Like $4, which is fine. God, I hope you guys can't see my credit card number here. Good thing the Steam overlay doesn't show that. All right, to install my new content. Oh, it's already downloading the content right now, and they say they'll notify me when it's ready to use. That's cool. Finished downloading already? That's cool. Oh, sure, you see nothing, Links, bro. Sure. This is 5 to 10 minutes.
Heave to! There's something floating to the leeward. The speaker was a short, stockily built man whose name was William Jones.
Lovecraft wrote this when he was 7, by the way.
He was the captain of a small catboat in which he and a party of men were sailing at the time the story opens.
Oh, a couple other dudes. What is a catboat?
Aye, aye, sir, answered John Towers, and the boat was brought to a standstill. Captain Jones reached out his hand for the object, which he now discerned to be a glass bottle. Nothing but a rum flask that the men on the passing boat threw over, he said. But from an impulse of curiosity, he reached out for it.
Good guy, not letting that litter float around in the ocean.
It It was a rum flask, and he was about to throw it away when he noticed a piece of paper in it. He pulled it out, and on it read the following. January 1st, 1864. I am John Jones, who writes this letter. My ship is fast sinking with the treasure on board. I am where it is marked on the enclosed chart. Captain Jones turned the sheet over, and the other side was a chart. On the edge were written these words. Dotted lines represent course we took. Towers, said Captain Jones excitedly. Read this.
Well, I can't read, Master.
Towers did as he was directed. I think it would pay to go, said Captain Jones. Do you? Just as you say, replied Towers.
Yeah, sure, boss.
We'll charter a schooner this very day, said the excited captain. All right, said Towers.
What is this guy not talking? Oh, hey, there we go. Family legend. There's an interesting legend about one of the offshoots of the Lovecraft lineage, the Musgraves. They were in possession of a 14th century chalice, most likely from Syria or Egypt, called the Luck of Edenhall. Legend has it that the goblet belonged to some fairies who happily drank from it at the St. Cuthbert's well. When curious people suddenly appeared there, the fairies escaped, abandoning the goblet. One of them shouted out a warning. If this cup should break or fall, farewell the luck of Edenhall. Fortunately, the chalice survived, and you can still admire it in the V&A Museum in London. This legend has been reappearing in pop culture over the years, ranging from an old German ballad through the name of a pop rock band to manga. I've never heard of that before.
So they hired a boat.
Oh, that is cool. That is way cool. Oh, hey. Childhood games. One of Lovecraft's favorite children's games was creating complex scenes using building blocks, models, tin soldiers, and clods of earth. With their help, he played out various historical scenarios. These events were sometimes short-lived. They represented a war, a plague, or simply a thrilling spectacle of travel, commerce, or some event that led nowhere. But sometimes they spanned long eons, reflecting changes in the appearance of the landscape or buildings. A letter from Lovecraft to J. Vernon Shea, November 8th, 1933. It is especially interesting considering his later writing career. There was a kind of intoxication in being lord of a visible world, albeit a miniature one, and determining the flow of its events. It was not his only childhood pastime. He enjoyed riding a bike he received for his 10th birthday so much that years later he described himself from that period as a veritable bicycle centaur. That's awesome. Oh, Lovecraft is cool. All those cancel attempts on him were nonsense. He did nothing wrong. I like his father's cat's name. Oh. I wonder if chat... Hey, there's a game I want to play. So, I'm Nick Starling. Let's continue the letter thing. It's Nick Starling, so the next letter is I.
And started off governed by the dotted lines of the chart.
Oh, that is cool. That's not it, Links, bro. It's N-I-C-K, right? Gosh. His fascination with science. Lovecraft learned to read at the age of 4. He quickly became interested in exact sciences, especially chemistry. As a 9-year-old, he even started publishing his own amateur magazine, the Scientific Gazette, and sometime later, the series The Chemistry. Around 1900, the futuristic master of horror developed an interest in Antarctica and began writing treatises on expeditions to the continent. This undoubtedly influenced one of his most famous works, At the Mountains of Madness, written 30 years later. As a 12-year-old, Lovecraft discovered astronomy, which he later considered his most moving experience. Realizing the immensity of the cosmos had a huge impact on his worldview and work, laying the foundations for the cosmic horror genre. This is from The Majesty of the Concept of an Expanding Universe. Oh no, this isn't from that. This is his quote. Lovecraft says, "The majesty of the concept of an expanding universe still makes me shudder in a unique manner." A Confession of Unfaith, 1922. Who this third guy is?
In 4 weeks, they reached the place where directed. And the divers went down.
Ooh. Eesh. Oh. This kind of reminded me of that game Aquanox, which is like Descent, but underwater. Aquanox is awesome. Eesh. I want to catch him with my teeth. I like how they have almost like a cel-shaded look to... a cel-shaded look to everything in this one, because it's more like for kids, I guess. So, let's see. His grandfather, Whipple Van Buren Phillip, Lovecraft's grandfather, was a very important figure in his life. Is his name Whipple Van Buren Phillips? That is so funny. As the writer said himself, "My beloved grandfather became the center of my universe." Van Buren Phillips introduced his grandson to various works of art he brought from his travels, exchanged letters with him, and helped him develop his passions. He largely replaced Lovecraft's dead father. Interestingly, he also cured him of his fear of the dark by encouraging him to walk through a series of dark rooms. Splinter Cell made me think I was safer in the dark, so I love the dark. I like chilling in the dark. I feel like I'm not being watched when I'm in the dark. Young Howard's grandfather was probably the only family member to tell Lovecraft improvised mystery tales, which undoubtedly influenced his later work. What a cool guy. All those eyes. Yes, I'm totally a shark. Aw, a little flask. Get in the flask. I want to look around more. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Oh, God, I love the vastness of the ocean. So dark.
And came up with an iron bottle. They found in it the following lines scribbled on a piece of brown paper.
More clues? Come on now.
December 3rd, 1880. Dear Searcher, excuse me for the practical joke I have played on you. But it serves you right to find nothing for your foolish act. Well, it does, said Captain Jones. Go on. However, I will defray your expenses to and from the place you found your body. I think it will be $250, so that amount you will find in an iron box. I know where you found the bottle because I put this bottle here. And the iron box. And then found a good place to put the second bottle. Hoping the enclosed money will defray your expenses, some I close. Anonymous.
Spelled wrong. How cute. Let's see. There are a few puzzling elements in the little glass bottle. For example, the number 25.0.00, which is not a typo, as this amount appears in the text 3 times. It is not entirely clear why Lovecraft decided to write out the number this way, and what he meant by it. While publishers and translators interpret it in various ways, in our opinion, he most likely meant $250. I like the idea of it being $25, but this guy was doing a second little prank. He's like, oh, it's 25.0, 0.00 again. Oh, bro, who cares, right? Just 25 bucks, bro. The map used in the game reflects the original version drawn by Lovecraft for the story. Did you notice that the land marked on it is signed as Australia, spelled wrong too? A simple typo, or maybe young Howard was already creating his own lands and unknown islands in his imagination. How cute. It is also puzzling that the dates in the letter in both bottles are almost 17 years apart. I did think about that too.
I'd like to kick his head off, said Captain Jones. Here, diver, go and get the $250.
Yeah, you get it. It better be money.
In a minute, the diver came up bearing an iron box. Inside it was found $250. It defrayed their expenses, but I hardly think that they will ever go to a mysterious place as directed by a mysterious bottle.
I would. I'd do it 10 times over, man. That was nice. Says, we hope you enjoyed this little trip into the world of Lovecraft's childhood. We would appreciate it if you took a moment, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, check out the other stuff. We get you. I already own the Eldritch Box DLC. It's mostly just like wallpapers and music and stuff. So yeah, that was awesome. I really hope they keep making stuff like this. Can you imagine this kind of fidelity for like an actual adaptation of the Call of Cthulhu or At the Mountains of Madness? Oh, and you mentioned earlier, Ferret Gore, you said there's a newer Call of Cthulhu game made by Cyanide Studio. I do have that on, I believe, Xbox, I think? I might have it on Xbox, I might have it on PC. Let me check now, actually. Oh, I forgot that I bought the Caligula effect too, and I was intending on streaming that. Oh, I do have the new Call of Cthulhu game on PC. Well, we could probably play that sometime this week. That's awesome. Yeah, I really love Lovecraft stuff, so I kind of want to let that take the place of some other stuff. I also have Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth, which is that Bethesda-published kind of janky early 2000s game, which also had an Xbox version. That game was really cool, but it had some really frustrating trial and error sequences that drove me away from the experience. It also was kind of crashy, but I was able to get it working at like a weird aspect ratio and resolution. It was kind of odd. In his house in Rudia, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. Cool. The one with the draw distance glitch? I'm not sure. If you mean that old Dark Corners of the Earth game, I didn't notice any glitches with draw distance, but there was a chase sequence where God, I hate chase sequences that are trial and error and they're just not programmed right. It's kind of like that sequence in Yomawari Night Alone where I died like over 50 times because of the hitboxes being off. In that chase scene in Dark Corners of the Earth, you had to be exactly precise, you had to guess exactly what to do. You know, you had to know whether you should maybe block off a doorway with a thing or save the few seconds and just keep going. It was very, do this 50 times until you get it done. It was very frustrating. Shoot with the cannon. Oh my god, that sounds amazing. That Cthulhu game is Dark Corners of the Earth, I believe. It might be the Xbox version that had the draw distance glitch, but I'm not sure. Let's see, they need to adapt the story Dream of Unknown Kadith? It's one of Lovecraft's fantasy stories that was not horror. Wow. I'm not familiar with that one. I downloaded the entire collected works of HP Lovecraft as an ebook around 2013 or 14. I read 3 or 4 of his stories, and I just have too much media. There's too much media in this world to consume. I certainly wouldn't mind dedicating like a whole ass like year of my life to Cthulhu shit though, because Lovecraft has such a good body of work. Oh man. There's one. Yeah, but yeah. If you guys want to see the new Call of Cthulhu game, I think I'd be glad to stream that. There's also that game, The Sinking City, I believe it is. I have that one on Xbox though, and it's the last gen version of the game, so you don't have like all the 4K ray tracing, all that jazz of the new generation version. There was like some drama with the publisher pulling some bullshit on the developers. That's the reason that I don't have the newer version. Well, that's the reason the older version wasn't updated. That's right. Either way, that was fun. I really hope they make more of those, and I appreciate everyone tuning in. I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. You can expect to see me every day this month streaming horror games. Yeah, fuck that publisher. Yeah, yeah. We couldn't go a whole stream without me saying the F word, you know? It's not acceptable. Gotta say the F word at least one time. Yeah, everyone have a great night. Later, taters. Thanks for tuning in.